you're a big fan. We could talk about the expanded playoff. We could talk about, the realignment of the conferences. I know you're excited. EA Sports NCAA 25 is just a few short weeks away. Have you gotten your hands on an advanced copy? What are your thoughts on the resurrection of this great game? Yeah.
Thor, I'm wondering if one of the storylines for this coming season, and I would sign up for this in a second, and a lot of people in the area would too. Okay, Syracuse, they've got this great record, but are they for real? We're never invited to the party here at any level, but I look at their non-conference schedule. Ohio, Holy Cross, UNLV. I look at everything else in their conference schedule. You don't have Clemson. You don't have Florida State. I mean, are we to believe, and with the new head coach, new quarterback, a lot of new things in Syracuse, could the Orange actually be contenders in the ACC this year?
Thor, not only do you have, to keep tabs on the portal this year, you have to keep tabs on conferences. The realignment, from last year to this year is insane. The Pac-12 is essentially no more, the Pac-2. And I'm wondering what your take is on the Big Ten and know how closely you follow it. Are there teams in the Big Ten that might benefit from this realignment?
Yeah, Thor, you tweeted a little bit about this today. Some people are having some fun with it, but are we done with all this? Could the Big 12 be actually gobbling up some more schools? And if so, who might be some targets here?
Yeah, social networking. Yeah. And Thor, where does it end, or does it end? I mean, with the monetization of college athletics and specifically college football in this instance, if you have two major conferences, are you pitting the All-State versus Geico conference against each other? I mean, like they can really sell this out, and it'll also look and sound different than it's ever looked and sounded for us as fans.
But as far as where does the realignment ends, it ends with two things. It ends when we get to the Big Two, which will mark the death of the NCAA, at least as the governing body for the top college teams. That was something else that guy told me was the NCAA is dead. It just doesn't know it yet. At least for governing the top programs. Once it gets to that situation where it's Big Ten, SEC, and again, maybe one of the other two can inch in there and hang around for a while, but they won't need the NCAA's rules or oversight anymore at that time. They'll make their own rules, and we'll have the big boys against everyone else. And one manifestation you see of it now, just this season, like looking at it short term, that you've seen from the transfer portal stuff, the movement of the teams, everything is we're seeing an isolation of the talent to the top. It's not as pronounced as people think. Where the fears were there was just going to be like 5, 6, 7, 8 programs that were colossuses, and everyone else would be there'd be a significant gap. But it's probably 20 to 25, maybe 28. Where you're seeing the essentially the talent filter up, right? So it's like the best FCS guys go to either the G5 or the best ones get up to the Power Four now, but then also the best G5 guys, of course, go up to the Power Four and on down the line. You just see the filtering up because now you don't have the transfer restrictions. We're going to keep seeing that.
Yeah, Thor, I mean, it's fascinating, and as you're handicapping, who might be good this year, who might not be, up to whatever the win total is. How much do you factor in now who has their act together as far as a collective and NIL? I mean, how do you even begin to research that? Because to me, that's the source of this. Like, which schools are you hearing are ahead of the game, and which schools? I mean, Clemson obviously doesn't use the portal, but in terms of NIL and money, which schools have some work to do here?
Yeah, and Clemson's a great example of this. And they could get the resource. Of course, that's more of Dabo's ideology. But you've seen Clemson precipitously slide the last couple of years, where they have essentially Dabo basically gave a red carpet to Mike Norvell in Florida State to bypass them in the ACC, because that's a school that does it well. And I love their strategy too. Like Norvell, it's not like Coach Prime or a couple of the other. Lincoln Riley would be another example where they overturn and churn over big amounts of their LSU to an extent too. But Florida State, they basically isolated on main targets at their biggest holes, and then they try to develop the rest of the roster. I think that they're brilliant with it, and they have the ammo to go out and get the top guys, at those positions that they're looking for. Ohio State would be a great example of in Oregon too. The top two teams in the Big Ten this coming season of programs that have a lot of resources there, and they fire away in very smart ways. Ohio State is built, about as talented of a roster as you'll see. And Oregon is a legitimate contender there, and a legitimate contender for the national title because of the same. And one other point about this year, vis-a-vis all this, is one cool thing about it to me is you don't have the like a team where they're just by far and away the front runner. I think Georgia's probably the most talented team, and maybe with Ohio State and Oregon 2 and 3, Texas would be up there too. But you don't have like one where it's like the runaway favorite to win the title. That's heading into the regular season, and then we're going to get the Wild West this year as far as the 12-team college football, the expanded college football playoff, because where there's going to be more variance, more teams are going to get the crack at that, and without one team at least appearing on the surface at this point that is way better than everybody else, it's going to be really interesting to see the way that plays out, and we could get a surprise national title winner this year. Absolutely.
Yeah, Thor, now I want to talk a little bit more about that expanded college football playoff, because I think if you're a detractor, if you're somebody that's not really into it, you worry that a team that isn't worthy of being in the playoff is in there and somehow they end up in the title game. And I would say, well, if they're in the title game, then they're worthy because they beat superior opponents to get there. Are there teams that you think that might be like fringe teams that if they were to get into the college football playoff at the end of the season, they could make some noise just based on some of the talent that you're seeing out there already?
Yeah, I mean, one, I would point at the Big 12 for that. It is so wide open right now. It's really difficult to pinpoint like a favorite, but Utah would be an example of a team where last year, multiple of their top didn't even play one game. Cam Rising, the quarterback, was out for the entire season. Brant Keithy, their stud move tight end, he was out for the entire season. And speaking of NIL, I was told early in the offseason that Utah was being about as aggressive with their monetary offers to kids out there, particularly at wide receiver and a couple other positions that they viewed as sore spots. They're sort of a under the radar aggressive team in NIL, but they get the stud veterans back, and then they bring in these guys in the portal, and they're one of the best coach teams in the nation. So when you're thinking about one-off scenarios in the playoff, getting Whittingham and his defense, and then, I mean, they're just going to be, crossing their fingers as far as the offense goes, that Rising and Keithy can stay healthy. But if they can, that would certainly be a team. Kansas State has a lot of interesting pieces, and their backfield can give people problems because the Avery Johnson kid that got the new starter at quarterback is an incredible dual threat kid. He's just very, very dangerous. They have two awesome running backs there. My alma mater, Kansas, is this the best Kansas team we've seen in a long time there. They have one of the nation's best backfields. So those would be a couple of teams that I would toss out that could surprise there if they get into that sort of like one-off scenario in the playoff.
Thor Nystrom is our guest. Thor, I want to get your thoughts on a few players here as we switch to, hey, who was in college that we're familiar with that we or maybe not familiar with that might actually help you, whether that's in a normal draft or as you're focusing now, in a draft that you can get a keeper league. Penix, I thought Penix was this fun player at Indiana, and then he came out of Washington, and to me, it's still a shock that he went to Atlanta at number 9 overall. Just kind of get your thoughts on Penix and maybe that Atlanta offense overall, because that is loaded with talent we saw in college, but yet has really kind of failed to live up to the promise here in the NFL.
Yeah, for sure. As far as Atlanta goes for the coming season, I absolutely think that they could make the playoffs. They could win the division. The issue is, and the reason that decision was so ludicrous, I'll just state it plainly, was you have all these holes on defense. You also had, holes, ancillary receiver. You could have used the offensive line. You could have used a little bit of help, but particularly on the defense, and sinking that pick into a quarterback after you had given, your war chest of cap space to a different quarterback, particularly a 6-year quarterback who can play right away, as opposed to a couple of the other quarterbacks in the class. Like, he was the play now guy. So, like, both the pick didn't make sense and also the prospect didn't make sense, because now you have the guy who could have played right away who now needs to sit on the bench. I don't know what they're seeing with Michael Penix as far as going forward. We're going to let him marinate on the bench for a couple of years. Michael Penix is already a finished product, right? I mean, again, he had 6 years in college football. Last year they made that title game. I just, that's the confusing part to me. I wouldn't touch Penix in a dynasty league. I'd use my resources on someone else. But, just like with the offensive firepower they have with the skills, and then you're going to have a much better quarterback play this year with Cousins upgrading over Desmond Mitter. Like, they're certainly going to be a more interesting team. So,
yeah, Thor, you might not remember this. I mean, we talked to you a couple days after the draft, and we've nominated you for our take of the year with your rant on Atlanta's decision to do what they did at the draft in April.
The guy who's running that room, Terry Fontenot, he does that every single year. He just torches assets. This is a 4th straight year that they've had a top 8 pick. In those 4 years, he's taken a tight end, he's taken a running back. Now he's taking a guy who will be a multi-year backup quarterback, and by the time he can finally get a chance, his rookie contract's going to be done. He's going to be closing in on 30. Terry Fontenot, in my opinion, should have been fired on the spot. I think that there's a really good chance that he has overseen his last draft process.
It's fantastic take, Thor. You didn't have to hold back today.
It seemed like he's interviewing with Matthew Berry, be like, okay, and you just hit the play button.
Yeah, this is what I bring to the table. I bring fire when I come. Thor, it is great to have you on with us once again. Maybe we'll be talking to you at the end of the year for your Take of the Year nominee there. Maybe it's Take of the Year worthy, and we'll be handing that award to you. Before we let you go, for those of our listeners who are just joining us, tell us a little bit more about college football or fantasy life and your role there at Fantasy Life, working alongside Matthew Berry.
Yeah, always awesome to talk to you guys. And yeah, you guys can check out my work at Fantasy Life. Just starting that stuff up. We're starting to, this week we're dropping my Dynasty Rookie Sleepers. I think today they dropped the quarterbacks, but the running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends will be coming out. I go as deep as down into UDFA sleepers, for the guys that play in the crazy deepest leagues that you have there. But yeah, my college football stuff will be coming out on Fantasy Life as well during the regular season. And we're starting up my season win total preview here in a little bit. Hopefully we'll be giving some love to Syracuse. And again, always great talking to you guys.
Thor, I could talk to you for hours and hours and hours. Just always a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time today.
Hey, appreciate you guys. Talk soon.
Be good. Thor Nystrom. That's one of our favorites there. New gig, Fantasy Life, working with Matthew Berry, their college football and NFL draft analyst. Good to get a little college football talk here in the sports bar. He's high on Syracuse.
Yeah, how could you not? I mean, you look at their schedule, Danger. If it's not this year, then when? Okay, you're going to be favored at home against Ohio. You're going to be favored against Georgia Tech. Stanford favored. Holy Cross favored. At UNLV.
The timing on this works for the football program. If everything falls into place the way Thor is kind of describing it falling into place, Syracuse just wants a seat at the table, wants to show that they're worthy of being in this massive conference.
This sounds like you head to NC State 5-0. And that should get people excited, but that'll be the question. Is this a real 5-0? Well, you have this new head coach. You have the Ohio State quarterback. I also think it's fascinating, too, because he's talking about the Big 12 and how they say. And I'm looking at one of the schools on the schedule, Pittsburgh. Like, if West Virginia is in the Big 12, I mean, could that be a target? honestly, danger should Syracuse consider the Big 12.
Yeah, college football is far from done as far as realignment and the dust settling. There's still a lot of money to be made, a lot of deals to be had. It'll be interesting to see how it all shakes out. Really appreciate Thor giving us some of his time this afternoon. We'll come back next in the sports bar. I have a question, Gino. Who this season in the NFL do you think will lead the league in rushing yards? Because there's a name that I would venture to guess the casual fan doesn't even know where he plays. There's a lot of Vegas money coming in on this name to lead the league in rushing, and I'll explain why it makes sense.
Now, we are 2 weeks away from the Bills reporting to St. John Fisher University. Actually, the first practice will already be in the books 2 weeks from today, and we're excited about that. And, boy, every time I think, okay, Keon Coleman can't drop another one on us, this guy, he's funny. And he dropped another one on why, if he's going to bond with Josh Allen, he's going to do it on his terms. So some Keon Coleman, some Bills talk coming up.
We got that along with Jim Riley, Ball Cap Sports, and the Odyssey exclusive Barreled Up Baseball podcast. We will talk to Riley here in about a half an hour or so. Time for your calls on the other side as well at 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326.
You're listening to The Sports Bar with And streaming online and in the Odyssey app at The Fan Rochester. The sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. The Fan Rochester. Sports update.
Rochester Americans announcing their home opener. It's going to be against Belleville, Friday, October the 11th. The full Amherst schedule to be released tomorrow. Rochester Red Wings 6-game winning streak comes to an end this afternoon. Worcester winning 7-6. Same two teams in Central Massachusetts tomorrow. On the Major League scoreboard, couple of doubleheaders. The Royals leading the Cardinals 6-3. They're in the top of the ninth. Also in Game 1 is the White Sox leading the Twins 3-1. They're in the eighth. Yankees tonight looking to turn things around. They're down in Tampa Bay. Dodgers are in Philadelphia. The Boston Red Sox at home taking on Oakland. The Mets at home as well. They take on Washington. Sports brought to you by GetMyPerks.com today. Get a $50 certificate for only $25 to Max Pizzeria and Catering on Lyle Avenue in Gates. Gene Battaglia in the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
This is a team that has seemingly, for the entirety of the Josh Allen era, has been on the cusp of the Super Bowl.
The Bills, in the beginning of the season, looked like the normal Bills. Then they hit kind of an offensive rut.
Mike Danger.
Are they contenders or are they pretenders?
Gene Battaglia.
Who's the MVP of the league right now?
Gundy's something, man. I like, I like him. But man, my man was making some pretty ridiculous statements. No way. Coed. Not available?
I mean, I feel bad for the guy. He doesn't get to represent his country. It's such a bummer.
95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
We welcome you back into the sports bar. You know, Thor brought it up last hour when we were talking to him. He mentioned a clip that's been circulating from the off-season version of Hard Knocks.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen any of these clips?
I have seen a lot. Now, let me just preface. I thought Hard Knocks, what do they say, jump the shark. Like we were used to Rex Run, but maybe it's because we're so inundated with videos and everybody's got a reality series. And quite honestly, Hard Knocks in recent years had become sanitized. To me, the point where you had the Raiders and we didn't really see what was going on with Antonio Brown and management that one year. I'm like, maybe this isn't it for me anymore. But now the way they're bringing you really behind the scenes with Joe Shane and some of these other executives, like some of the stories are like, wait a second, maybe I got to go check this out.
Well, I hear what you're saying, and that's the appeal of the show, right? The appeal is, you're getting access that you wouldn't normally get. But if I think the BS part of this is in getting that access, inevitably, I think you look like a buffoon, whether you're the player or you're the coach or you're the GM. In these moments that are typically private, where you now are on stage because there's a camera shooting everything. If you're Brian Daboll and you're interviewing Malik Neighbors, you kind of come off looking a little bit like a buffoon. If you're Joe Shane and you're prepping for your press conference with your team, I mean, like, look, this is all the access that Hard Knocks, praises itself for delivering to you. But at the same time, if you're a team like the Giants, you see some of it and I'm like, I kind of get now why they are where they are. It's not that they I don't know. I feel like I think less of Daboll and Shane after seeing some of the clips that I've seen the last 24 hours.
Yeah, I mean, and there's another scene I saw that Shane, before the combine, he's the PR guy. They're doing the drill of what questions and how to answer the questions and basically how to lie.
Right. I mean, look, I know that you're going into a press conference prepared. You should go into a press conference prepared. They're going through those motions to make sure that when you do get asked these questions, you know how you're going to answer these questions. Shane is working with the PR guy to make sure that when he answers them, he doesn't answer them off the cuff. He knows strategically, this is what I'm going to say and why I'm going to say it. And there's other clips that are out there. The idea that that they paid Saquon Barkley or they offered him all this money and he didn't take it, and they would have franchised him again if it made, like. It makes it. I think it shines. Unfortunately, the teams that get showcased on Hard Knocks are usually bad teams, and it showcases and highlights and puts a spotlight on why those bad teams might be bad teams when you kind of see the way they're positioned. And the sad thing is like most of this stuff happens behind closed doors and shouldn't ever come to light. It is being brought to light, and I don't know that it necessarily looks good for the team that's being showcased.
No, I know a lot of Bills fans would love more, like something like that, and I don't think you want that.
No, I don't think you want that.
You want that.
I don't think you want Sean McDermott, talking to the team and comparing, a teamwork to what the terrorists of 9/11 did. Hey, can you imagine if Hard Knocks got a hold of that? That never see the light of day. So I guess what I'm saying is the NFL taking editorial control and kind of, it just doesn't, it feels kind of icky. It feels like you're making Joe Shane and Brian Daboll in this instance look like they don't really know what they're doing, or at least at minimum kind of buffoonish.
Well, I was talking with a Giant fan, listener of the show, Bill Grant, today, and I just told him, look, this is just a fast track because you're leading to change here for the Giants, and that's going to be great for me because Bill Belichick will be your next head coach with the New York Giants next year.
I don't think so. I don't think so, man. Not when you're sporting a 24-year-old hairdresser. I don't think that he's leaving that to go back to an NFL sideline.
I love this. Now, there are experts who are weighing in on this.
Okay.
Right, because, wait a second, what is this all about? 72-year-old accomplished man, 24-year-old former cheerleader from Bridgewater State. This doesn't add up. What does this really amount to? Well, may I offer you a take from Dr. Jen Mann? She's a therapist. Okay? And tell me if this just sounds right to you or if she's saying anything out of line. Quote, according to Dr. Mann, usually younger women are drawn to much older men because of unresolved issues with their fathers. This could be because of a lack of attention, love, or something not being there.
Yeah.
Or even someone being in the household but not being present the way she might wish he was.
Yeah.
Okay, girl dads everywhere, present, pay attention, be present, girl dads. Chris Rock jokes about the poll.
Yeah.
No. There are other less than desirable outcomes too. Dad, meet my new 72-year-old boyfriend.
I don't know, man. I'm trying to think to myself, if my daughter's 24 years old and she brings home her new boyfriend and it's arguably the greatest head coach of all time, is that a less than desirable outcome? He's established, he's wealthy, generational wealth, really. I mean, you don't have to worry about anything with this guy. He's clearly is going to take care of her financially.
Okay, where are you going with this at the end of it? Also, Dr. Mann kind of goes into other she's a sexual therapist.
Uh-huh.
Like there's other things.
Did she mention that Bill Belichick may know his way around Nantucket? Because I think that's what it comes down to. I think more than anything.
He lives on Nantucket.
No, you know what I'm saying. He knows his way around Nantucket more so than some other 24-year-old dude may know. Bill Belichick's been around the block. He knows his way around Nantucket. If you know what I'm saying, he may have a forked tongue. Look at his son. That might be part of it as well. Gene, I saw this take, thought of you immediately. Wanted to get your reaction because you're a fan of both franchises. The take that I saw comes from our Odyssey sports sister station, WFAN in New York. And the take is that Francisco Lindor is to the Mets what Jalen Brunson is to the Knicks.
It's a terrible take, but the take by Pete Hoffman, WFAN, does overnight.
I mean, I guess...
No, not for the reason that you think. It's a bad take, meaning, oh my gosh, look, the Mets haven't done anything with Lindor, and here's Brunson on one leg leading the team to the conference finals. That's not what makes the take bad. Name me one player in free agency in baseball that has actually transformed a franchise. Go. It's not a sport that you can do that. So to put that on Lindor, now Lindor expectation, I'd give it a B here at this point, but you're Shohei Ohtani coming overseas, and you're playing for the Angels, and you're still in last place. You can't make the playoffs. It doesn't hold that can't happen. You can't draw an analogy to the NBA where that is the sport, the number one sport where one player can actually take it, go, boom, up like that.
I hear that, but I think there are instances where a free agent can, like, I feel like Bryce Harper has kind of transformed the culture in Philadelphia with the Phillies.
Yeah, they got to a World Series.
I mean, that there are players that you can bring in and they can be impactful and they can lead a clubhouse. And I hear what you're saying, and
yeah.
I immediately dismissed it as well, because on the surface I'm like, okay, I see what he's doing here. These are two New York teams. He's on New York Sports Talk Radio, but it just doesn't feel like apples to apples when you had Brunson essentially altering the course of the Knicks franchise and playing the way that he played this last season with a grit and a tenacity that has people believing that the Knicks could actually contend. When was the last time you could say that? I mean, we were dogging the Knicks as recently as just a couple of years ago.
No. I mean, if you're a Knicks fan, you're actually excited when the schedule comes out here in a few months.
And Lindor got the Mets to that one postseason berth. It was a home wild card series, and they lost. I don't have to bring it up to you, Gene, but I think he has a way to go here as far as how his play can elevate his team. And to your point, it doesn't happen that often in baseball. But if you're paying Lindor what you're paying Lindor, I think the hope is that guy can be that leader in the clubhouse that steps up and makes others around him better.
When the two players are burning bright. In Catalana, if you're listening, the rare thing, turn off the radio.
No, don't tell him to turn
off
Don't tell
the radio.
anybody to turn off the radio.
No, honestly, like when Trey Turner's burning bright, he burns brighter than Francisco Lindor. Mm-hmm. There are other shortstops. Like when you compare shortstops in the league today, what Lindor is being paid, yeah, he's not top three. Sorry. No, not it at all. Bills take here. And again, 2 weeks from today, we're going to be at St. John Fisher University. Don't wish your time away. Enjoy your summer, as we know a lot of people are off this week. Keon Coleman is one of us, Danger. Coleman sitting down with one of his Florida State brethren. He's now a current CBS reporter, Bryant McFadden. The rookie wide receiver in Buffalo says, no, he's not going to golf with Josh Allen. That Allen shoots 70 or something crazy like that, admitting he doesn't even know, Coleman, when numbers, what they mean in golf, and that Allen would be much better shooting rocks in a lake with him as a way to bond. Keon, you are speaking to me. Yeah. If you suck at golf, okay, so do I. Good that Keon Coleman is self-aware not to be putting yourself through that.
I understand, and there's an anxiety that comes with playing golf if you're playing with somebody who can really play and is really good, and you struggle. Golf is so maddening, and I love watching my daughter play and watching the game through her performance. And by the way, like last night, I get home and little cats in the cradle moment here. We sold her old set of golf clubs to a new kid. Like, she grew out of them, and a new kid. He's just picking up the game, and he's starting now, and he's going to be starting middle school, and we want to get him involved in the game. I'm like, good for you. Get out there, hit him long, hit him straight. I want to get out there more. I want to be able to say, yeah, I break 100. I'm not Josh Allen. I'm not playing at a 70 level, but I can break 100 because I get out there and I get enough reps. If you're Keon, you haven't even given that enough. What did he say he was after he got drafted? I'm Tiger, wish I could.
Yeah.
I'm Tiger, wish I could. I'm like Keon as well, and then I'm Tiger, I wish I could. I wish I could devote the time required to get out there and play golf. And we see our colleagues all the time, the guys that cover the team and that cover the Bills, and they're out there all the time. And all I can think to myself is, must be nice. Must be nice, guys. I don't have that time.
It's got to be a time management thing.
Maybe.
I'll name names. Like, hey, Sal, can you come on the show? Nope, I got 18. Like, Thad, that's another one. Like, they get the time. What are we doing wrong? Okay, because they are married, they have kids, they have demanding careers. Why can they carve out the time when we can't?
All right, Gino. So are we making a pact? You and I, we're going to get better at golf?
No, I can't. No, every time I've gone down this path, I'm smart enough to say I can't do this.
Well, you can do it. You just need time and reps. That's all.
I made an ass of myself in front of the Syracuse athletic
You don't
director.
have to think about Wild Hack. That's the past. I mean, if you're new to this show, you don't know the story. Gene once went golfing with Syracuse athletic director John Wildhack, and there was somebody else that was a
big donor too. Like you could tell, and I'm hacking my way around, and then Donor's like rolling his eyes at me, like, what am I doing with this kid?
Yeah, and then eventually I think at the end of one of the holes, didn't he just say, yeah, you know what, just pick it up.
Pick it up.
Yeah, just pick it up.
Pick
You're
it up.
slowing us down. Pick it up. I listen, man. I feel for you on that. I know what that anxiety feels like. I'm the same way because we're competitive. We want to be out there. We want to be able to compete. And Keon Coleman wants to be able to compete with his quarterback on the golf course. Can't do it. So instead, let's just go throw some rocks. I'm hoping that Keon Coleman, Gene, I'm hoping that all of us that wish we were better at golf could find the time and the energy to get out there and play more rounds.
By the way, can you skip stones? Just a little sidearm.
Oh, yeah.
delivery?
Dude, I grew up in the land of 10,000 lakes. Of course I can skip stones. It's like second nature. You come out the womb and you start skipping stones. There's a lake, pond of water wherever you look in Minnesota. Who's going to lead the NFL in rushing this season, Gino?
It's not going to be James Cook because I think Davis is going to take enough away from him, and certainly Josh Allen. Who might?
Rushing yards.
What about Saquon? Well, there's other options in Philadelphia, too.
There are plenty of options.
What I'm going to guess is it would be somebody that there really isn't any other options. I'm going to go with a guy that was good, got the second contract, was hurt, kind of like CMC a little bit. What about Jonathan Taylor?
Jonathan Taylor. I would listen to Josh Jacobs in Green Bay, right? There's plenty of compelling names. If I say the name Zamir White, would you even know what team he plays for?
I do.
You do.
I do.
But would the casual fan know Zamir White?
What round was he drafted in by the Raiders, by the way? That was not fourth.
He was a fourth-round pick, 2022, out of Georgia. Now, 2 seasons in the NFL, and granted, Josh Jacobs was in that backfield for Vegas. Just 521 rushing yards his first 2 NFL seasons, but late last year, Jacobs injured, missing the last 4 games of the season. White had a 145-yard game in Week 16 over the Chiefs, 112-yard game in a Week 18 win over the Broncos. I'm only bringing it up because White is the most bet player right now at BetMGM to win the rushing title at plus 3,000.
Why would that be? Nothing
in Vegas?
Yeah. Like honestly, Danger, isn't that kind of also sort of it?
But people in Vegas don't go to casinos. People in Vegas stay away from Vegas.
I'd have to learn more. You're right about that, but do people living in Henderson, Nevada? Is there oh, we're gonna go down the street here and there's some? I don't know.
When I see plus 3,000 in Zamir White, I get it, 30-1. I'm like, I kind of get why he would become the most bet player to win the rushing title. It doesn't seem, and I'm not bringing it up for you to go down and plunk down a unit on Zamir White. I'm bringing it up because we was talking a little fantasy yesterday. We talked a little fantasy with Thor last hour. I'm just saying Zamir White sneakily could be the kind of guy that you're like, oh, you don't really know much about going into the season, but by the middle of the season, you're looking at what he's doing, and you're like, whew. Now, one thing he has working against him, you don't have a really good quarterback play behind, in front of him.
No, that's the one team. Wait a second. We all say who's going to be the worst team? The Patriots. What about Vegas?
Yeah.
What is their plan?
Yeah, with McConnell and Gardner Minshew battling it out at camp for starter reps. That might be a detractor to a guy like Zamir White having the kind of year. Or Zamir White just proves everybody wrong, and it doesn't matter if they stack the box, he's still going to get his. Those impressive numbers at the end of the season there, I think, got a lot of people on notice against, division opponents. Zamir White, just a name to kind of stash away. The most bet player right now at BetMGM to win the rushing title. We are going to shift gears next and head to the Diamond.
Yeah, lots to talk about. And if you're a Yankee fan, this is our guy, Rochester native. Well, do we say Rochester native or spent time in Rochester?
He's got Rochester in his DNA.
In his DNA. Yeah. Jim Riley, who is the host of the Barreled Up podcast, which you can hear inside the Odyssey app. We'll get his thoughts on the Yankees and everything Major League Baseball.
Yeah, great job on YouTube as well as channel Ballcap Sports. Lots of baseball content. Jim Riley knows his stuff. He joins us next. And we go around the bigs on the Fan Rochester.
Home opener for the Rochester Americans. That is going to be coming up against Belleville Friday, October the 11th. The full schedule will be released tomorrow. Rochester Red Wings 6-game winning streak comes to an end. Worcester winning today in Central Mass 7-6. Same two teams tomorrow. On the Major League scoreboard, a couple of game ones have gone final. The Royals over the Cardinals 6-4. White Sox defeating the Twins by a 3-1 score. On the schedule tonight, the Orioles continue their series against the Cubs. Yankees are down in Tampa. Dodgers out in Philadelphia. Red Sox continue their series at home against Oakland. The Mets taking on Washington. Sports is brought to you by GetMyPerks.com. Today, get a $50 certificate for only $25 to Max Pizzeria and Catering on Lyle Avenue in Gates. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Neat or on the rocks? It's the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
All right, so we talk Major League Baseball in the Sports Bar. We bring in one of our favorites with some Rochester in his DNA, host of the Barreled Up podcast, an Odyssey exclusive in the free-to-download Odyssey app, Ball Cap Sports on YouTube. It's our buddy Jim Riley. Jim, the timing of you coming into the Sports Bar, I mean, you got to talk some Yankee fans off the ledge. Are things going to get better for the Pinstripes? Because they are struggling right now. How are you, buddy?
I'm good. I'm better than the Yankees are at current moment. Yeah, no, it's been a challenging couple of weeks. Would you believe it's July 10th and the Yankees have one win this month? Not something that we maybe thought we would see with how this team started out, but there's just I'll put it this way: if you're going to have the pillars of the house sort of fall out of place, you'd rather it happen in late June and early July than in September, because that's really what's happening here. It's kind of a complete breakdown across the board.
Yeah, I remember having an off-season conversation with you, and it was about Brian Cashman. And, asking him, and this is the annual thing, all right, is he coming back? Should they make a change? And your quote, I remember, no, his last name should be Steinberg, right at that point. Should Aaron Boone's last name be the same as well? Because if there was any team, and again, I'm comparing this to yesteryear, but is there something to be said for considering a change off of Aaron Boone?
So shameless plug moment here. I was talking with Bob Nightingale about an hour and a half ago on a latest podcast, Barreled Up. It's available now. Bob and I dive into trade deadline, and we talked about hot seats. We talked about – I started the conversation with, if the Dodgers don't win the World Series, is the hot seat for Dave Roberts going to be too much? Is he gone? And Bob said no, but shifted the conversation to the Yankees and it being Boone. That if the Yankees don't win the World Series this year, Bob Nightingale is a firm believer that Boone it'll be the hottest seat in baseball if the Yankees don't win the World Series with this team and everything they put into it. With the transaction they made, with going out and getting Juan Soto, it's all in. Cashman will be fine. Boone, if they don't win it, could be the guy. But right now, it's not. Right now, it's not Boone's fault. The team batting is not what we had expected it to be, or what we saw it be. The pitching is really the culprit here, and Boone's not out there throwing the ball. Boone's not out there giving up the home runs. I mean, this team over the last 2 weeks has given up the most home runs in baseball. Given up, not hit themselves, but allowed. Bullpen's getting bombed. Carlos Rodon is getting bombed. Luis Gil is not as good as he was to start the year. Stroman has been struggling. So keep the ball in the park and let some of these guys settle down. Again, this is the time. If you're going to go through some struggles, now's a good time to do it, not later on in the season.
I'm going to push back a little bit, though, Jim. I mean, as a casual observer of the Yankees, I'm not the hardcore fan that's watching every game every night and being critical of every. In hindsight, being 2020, it's easy to second guess the decision. But Sunday night, Gil looked dominant. He looked good. He looked like Louis Gil of earlier this season. You bring him out maybe an inning more than you needed to bring him out, and that's when the bomb happens, and you end up losing that game to the Red Sox on Sunday. And that I put on the manager, is that the manager's saying, no, I believed in the guy at the time, and he was pitching well, and we thought but you kind of tell at the end of that previous inning, like, he's probably done.
Yeah. There are those types of decisions happen nightly across the league for different managers, and you just hope that it's something that is not a regular occurrence. You could certainly – that is Boone's fault, leaving his guy out there, putting his pitcher in a position to fail. And that's what you want your managers to put all your players in a position to succeed. So you can point the finger there, but there are instances across the board, across all teams throughout the league, that those things happen. And yeah, I mean, it falls squarely. I think, though, at the end of the day, like, Boone will make it through the season. Boone's not going to be, any sort of midseason casualty. His job's in trouble at the end of the year if they're not hoisting up the trophy after the final out is made of the final game. That is what is ultimately going to matter to Yankee fans, is, do we win this thing? If we lose a game on July 10th, I'm frustrated, but there's going to be hell to pay if we don't have this thing taken care of, wrapped up at the end of October.
Yeah, we're talking to Jim Riley, who you can hear on the inside the Odyssey app on the Barreled Up podcast. And shameless plug for us, because on Friday on the show, we're going to be talking to Ben Wagner. He's part of the Orioles broadcast team. And this series coming up this week, Orioles, Yankees. Your thoughts on this? Is this the opportunity for Baltimore to say, this is our division, we're going to run away and hide with us?
Well, I mean, if they haven't – well, okay, so run away and hide's one thing. They're already making the claim that it's their division. At this point, they've been much better, supremely better over the last couple of weeks. And throughout the season, both teams have established their dominance. Lately, though, it's been all about the Orioles. The Yankees, just their inability to win games, and the Orioles just looking like nothing can slow them down outside of a blip or two. But that's what happens with the Orioles. You see a blip. The Orioles were swept by St. Louis 6-7 weeks ago. They were swept by Houston 2 or 3 weeks ago. But it doesn't turn into a thing. It sort of ends at the end of that series, and then they move on and they go take care of business. They're able to bounce back in a better manner. So it's an amazing series, though, having the Orioles and the Yankees, 2 top 5 teams in all of baseball, going head-to-head, division rivals like they are. And in the end, it should come down to these 2 teams in the American League East. This is a popcorn series. This is a lock into every moment.
Jim, why aren't more people talking about the Guardians?
Because it's Cleveland. Is that it? It's not. It's Cleveland. It's not New York. It's not L.A. It's not Atlanta. Atlanta is such a dominant powerhouse fan base and market. It's strictly because it's Cleveland, and there's not a lot of sexy names there. You've got J-Ram, Jose Ramirez, and you've got Emmanuel Clase. After that, the casual baseball fan can probably only name maybe one more Cleveland Guardian. So the lack of well-known household name star power guys is certainly part of it. But I can tell you, inside, deep inside the baseball circles where you get the stat heads and the stat nerds, I mean, Cleveland is well respected and well regarded throughout baseball. It's Cleveland. They don't have the major star power like New York does and LA does and Atlanta does. But they are just as big on the field. They are just as good, if not better, than some of those teams.
Yeah, taking a look, we're talking about the teams at the top here. I want to go in reverse in the American League, and I know where your loyalties lie, Jim. But when we're talking about the trade deadline coming up, the A's will be sellers. The Angels probably should be. I don't know if there's anything anybody would want in the White Sox. What are the Toronto Blue Jays going to do here?
So the Toronto Blue Jays, there is new reporting out from Mark Feinsand earlier this morning, talking about how the Blue Jays front office, Ross Atkins, the general manager, is telling other clubs around the league that the Blue Jays are open to trading their players that are free agents at the end of the current season. The word also continues on that they are not interested in trading anybody with control beyond the 2024 season, which applies to Bo Bichette, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Chris Bassett, Kevin Gausman, all of those names. But the pitchers that they have a starting pitcher, Yusei Kikuchi, who is a free agent. Their catcher, Danny Jansen, who's been there his whole career, is a free agent. Those are all of Kevin Kiermaier, Justin Turner. Those are all of the trade chips that Toronto is now highly likely as they appear to be ready to wave the white flag. I mean, last night was a perfect example that this is just not your year. Blake Snell, who has been a disaster in 6 previous starts, had his best start of the year last night. It was his first start in over a month, and the Blue Jays still somehow found a way to put themselves in position to win the game, only to lose it in the bottom of the 9th on a wild pitch. So it's just not their year. They should trade those pieces, and I think Vladdy they need to invest in and lock him up long term. Bo is the guy that I'm on record, and until the trade deadline passes, I'm going to continue to push for this. I believe that Bo is a player that Toronto should look to move if they get the right package. But it feels like you're going to have to pick one at some point anyway, and I believe Bo would bring a significant package back that could help you next season.
Jim, is Boston a playoff team?
Yes. Yeah, they're a great team. And you know what's funny? I keep saying this. If the front office had believed in this team like the team believes in the team, Boston might be right up there with Baltimore and New York, because if you remember, the Red Sox had that whole full throttle fiasco in the offseason, and they basically sat on their hands. They signed Lucas Giolito as a big free agent signing. So, and there were quotes from that ownership that they essentially did not think this was a team that could compete for anything of significance this year. And now here they are. They're pitching, they're hitting. They've got some terrific young talent. They're doing all this without one of their best bats, Tristan Cassis. They've had a ton of injuries this year, and here they are, 10 games over 500. They are a playoff team. Quotes yesterday that it was weird. They have not decided if they are going to buy yet, which is mind-boggling to me. It's July 10th, and you are 10 games over 500. You buy. Yeah. If you're Boston, you buy. You should not still be trying to figure that out or not. That should have been figured out like a month ago. Okay, at July 10th. Or mid-July, if we are 10 games over 500, we're buying. And that's where they're at right now. They should already know what they're going to be doing. And hopefully they do. Maybe what's getting out in the media is just like leverage stuff and trying to control the narrative in their favor. But I hope Boston buys, because they are a playoff team. They are a very good baseball team. And Rafi Devers is having the best season of his career.
Barreled Up Podcast. You're inside the Odyssey app. Jim Riley is our guest here in the sports bar at the National League. All right. Not as much suspense, in my opinion. I mean, we could pencil in Philadelphia certainly to win the division. Dodgers certainly. We'll just, okay, there's got to be a winner in the division. We'll make it Milwaukee. Atlanta's making the postseason as they're put together a few wins here. They've got a lot of talent still on that team that hasn't lived up to its potential. My question is, of everybody else, who gets in there, the other 2 wild cards, would you say?
Wow. You know, the wild card situation in the National League is fascinating, isn't it? For those that don't have a computer screen in front of them or are curious, there is a cluster from let's go with St. Louis, 48 wins, down to the Cubs, 43 wins. So that's a 5-win difference, and there's like 10 teams in that group, and only 2 of them make the playoffs. So of the teams that are hanging around, it's amazing, because over the last couple of days, the clustered up nature has only gotten even more so, with Cincinnati winning a couple games, Pittsburgh winning a couple games, Giants keep going back and forth, win-loss. The Diamondbacks got back to 500. Now they've lost a couple games. So everyone's jumbled in there. I'll say this. I do believe that the Padres have a aggressive enough front office to hang in there and grab one of those wild card spots. So after that, it boils down to the Cardinals, the Mets, the Diamondbacks, the Giants, Pirates, Reds, and Cubs. I believe the 2 teams that sort of stand out, well, I'll say 3 teams that stand out, would be St. Louis, Arizona, and San Francisco. Of those 3 teams, it's really going to be a matter of who closes the strongest, who gets hot at the right time. Because I don't know if St. Louis, Arizona, San Francisco, if they're good enough to sort of pull away from the pack between now and September. So I think and I believe San Diego can get to that point. So I believe at least one of those wild card spots, probably the last one, heading into the last couple of weeks of the season, there's going to be 4 or 5 teams, and I would bet money that the Cardinals, D-backs, and Giants are going to be in there because the Giants' pitching is going to get better. They have some injured starters coming off of the IL. So do the Arizona Diamondbacks, and I think the Cardinals are going to be aggressive at the deadline. And right now the Cardinals are up 5 games over 500, which is big right now. That's a significant advantage over those teams that are on the outside looking in. I don't think the Mets, hate to say it to Mets fans, I don't think this is going to happen. It's fun that they're 45-45. They had the whole grimace thing. It was fun, but I don't think they're going to last. Pittsburgh, it's fun, but I don't think it's going to last. Cincinnati's just underachieving this year, and the Cubs are just kind of a mess at the moment.
You mentioned the Pirates, and we have the All-Star break on the horizon. Gino and I just can't understand why Major League Baseball or why they wouldn't let Paul Skeens start that game just to get more eyeballs on the product. I mean, the kid is just remarkable, and to see him on that stage would be so much fun. Do you think they will? And do you think if they don't, what kind of a mistake are they making if they don't do that?
I think he will have a chance to start the game. It is also going to boil down to his current schedule. If he is going to be starting a game anywhere around the All-Star game, then he's not going to even be eligible to pitch in that thing. Hopefully, I'm actually going to look that up while we're talking, because he's probably the most eye-grabbing, electrifying pitcher easily, player even, to sort of burst onto the stage in a while. So he starts tomorrow against Milwaukee, and then Friday and Saturday. So he will be fully rested. It all lines up. It all completely lines up for him to certainly pitch. Won't have to worry about him starting on like Saturday or Sunday, and then because of that he can't pitch in the All-Star game. That won't happen. But they should definitely open up the opportunity to him starting. He has been so exciting and so dominant. There's certainly some other National League pitchers that you could make the case for, but Skeens would be a fantastic choice to start the All-Star game. And I hope they make that. I hope they do that, because I want Paul Skeens pitching against the guys that were voted in on the American League side. I don't want him pitching in like the 5th inning and then we're starting to rotate guys in and out at that point. I want him going up against the guys that were voted the most popular players in the American League. That's who I want him pitching against.
Yeah, we would all make sure we tune in right at the beginning, because you want to see that bottom of the first there and see him going against the best there. Jim, if there's one sport that I feel they don't listen to their fans, it would be Major League Baseball, because I have yet to meet the fan that actually enjoys how they've gone to these ridiculous uniforms here for the All-Star game.
Yeah, uniforms have been a bad move all around. Every decision they made for uniforms this year has just been one misstep after the next. I mean, I can't defend it. I can only hope that it is something that gets corrected as we move forward from designs to, I know City Connects can be hot or cold with some people. The actual jerseys themselves this year are a mess. The fabric, the design. Jerseys have just been a really bad PR play. And I got to think, I don't have the numbers in front of me, I got to think jersey sales are down despite how exciting the product on the field is. I got to think, I'm not buying a jersey this year of anything, because I don't want to get that design that is the 2024 design that nobody liked. I'm going to wait until 2025 and they have new jerseys out there before I buy a baseball jersey.
Jim, we touched on it a little bit with teams that you think might be buyers at the trade deadline. I wanted to kind of expand on that a little bit. Are there other teams that we haven't discussed yet that should be buyers at the deadline, teams that are sellers, and what names we could be looking at here that could be shifting teams here as we get to the deadline?
So I would say for the buyers, we are looking at, and as far as aggressiveness, expect the Dodgers and the Yankees, the World Series or bust teams are going to be extremely aggressive. So, consider the New York and LA teams. Baltimore is going to be aggressive. Seattle is desperate for a bat. There's going to be some interesting scenarios to play out with teams that have sort of surprised us, and we're kind of curious how deep they would dip into their prospect pool to add players. And I'm specifically thinking of Cleveland, Milwaukee, and Kansas City. And there's all of those fringe teams in the National League that have not really established themselves as a dominant force in the league this year. The teams like we just ran through, all those wild card teams in the National League, the Cubs, the Giants, the Diamondbacks, how much do they buy? Because we don't know where they're going to be at. But they could all enter the equation as buyers. And then as far as who, I think the biggest, the two teams that could wind up being have pieces pulled away the most are the Blue Jays, and we talked about the 5 or 6 players they could deal, and the Chicago White Sox, because the White Sox have 2 pitchers, and everybody's interested in them, Garrett Crochet and Eric Fetty. They've got a couple of bats that they could deal. They got a couple of arms they could deal, but it's going to be interesting to see because a lot of the big names that are being rumored about, the Luis Roberts, the Bo Bichetts, the Mason Millers, don't know if we're not certain that they're going to be dealt. But one big name we do feel pretty confident about is Jazz Chisholm down in Miami, that he could be dealt. There's a chance maybe the Rays make some pitchers available. Maybe Randy Arozarena could move, but it's a lot of maybes right now when it comes to the market. The things we're certain on are that the White Sox, the Angels, the Marlins, the A's, they will all be selling, and now the Blue Jays are adding their name into that mix. But there's a lot of talk, too, from like the Ken Rosenthal's and the Bob Nightingales that this may not be from a star power sexy name equivalent. This may not be an exciting deadline from that aspect. In the past, we had Juan Soto traded. We've had Justin Verlander. Last year, we had a pretty explosive deadline. The year before, we had an explosive deadline. The experts, the beat writers, are kind of patting down expectations that those big names may stay put, which will be interesting to sort of track and see. I feel like it changes on a daily basis, though. So you got to keep your finger on the pulse, and you got to keep an eye on the MLB trade rumors.
Jim, last one for me, and if I'm projecting, guessing what might be a storyline next week, because if Rob Manfred's going to speak, I'm going to guess that somebody's going to ask him about expansion. Does Rob Manfred open up, knowing now that, okay, Tampa's getting their stadium, and, well, they think they have a plan for the A's, and we've talked about that. Does Rob Manfred actually kind of set the next steps here for expansion, do you think?
I'm going to say I don't think he does. I think he's going to probably play it close to the vest because it's far off. It's a far away situation. There's certainly a lot of options. Austin, San Antonio, Charlotte, Nashville. There has been talk about Mexico City. There's been talk of Montreal. Because there's so many options, and I don't think he will want to go out there and say anything when I'm certain there's nothing final, nothing close to being final. I have a feeling he'll probably give something like where we're exploring all options and taking a look at it, but nothing firm, nothing has been decided. I think we'll get something along those lines when it comes to anything from the commissioner on expansion.
Jim, the Barreled Up Podcast, an Odyssey exclusive. You can hear on the free-to-download Odyssey app. We love the work that you're doing as well on YouTube with Ball Cap Sports, and we appreciate you giving us some time here back in the 585. Let us know what you're working on here as we get closer to the All-Star break.
Yeah, we're diving into every angle of the trade deadline that we possibly can. Just had Bob Nightingale on the podcast this morning, recorded fresh. It is up now. It is just a couple hours old. So you can go over there and find that. We're taking a close look. I'm reaching out to my contacts and people that I know, other content creators and collaborators that are close to other teams and trying to find out everything we can. And it's all trade deadline. All of the MLB draft is going to grab a little bit of attention here over the next couple of days, but it's all trade deadline everywhere you look for me, YouTube and the podcast. It's all trade deadline content.
Great content as always. Jim, thanks for the time. Made us smarter baseball fans. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Jim Riley, the host of the Barreled Up podcast, the free to download Odyssey app. You can find his work also with Ballcap Sports on YouTube. Love talking baseball with Riley. He's got a little 585 in his DNA.
Right.
Spent some time in Rochester. Good catching up with him. Baseball season is intriguing, and the young talent that'll be on display at the All-Star game. I know that might be a deterrent for some people just because you don't know all the names. I think it's fun.
So many little things that baseball does wrong because this is the time when really everything should be right out in front of you. And I'm looking at the schedule and Yankees, Orioles. I'm like, wow, this is the one. Okay, we're going to watch this. Yeah. Did they make this the Sunday night game? Trick question. What is the Sunday night game?
There isn't a Sunday night game.
There isn't a Sunday night game. Yeah,
we got to make Derby on Monday.
Yeah, we got to make sure everybody get.
Well, I do like the idea of Skeens, though. Skeens will be rested. If you want to make him your starter for the National League, no excuse.
That should be the call from the commissioner's
Just a
office
no-brainer.
That says, do this.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer.
Because how many people, put your hand in the air, have you watched Paul Skeens? I'm guessing no. You've seen highlights, but to actually watch him pitch.
No, he's good. And I want to see him pitch to Judge. I want to see it. I need to give me Skeens versus the American League's best. I want to see him throw gas. I think
for more than one inning, too.
Yeah.
But give us two.
It'd be fun. It'd be a lot of fun. We'll see if they get it right. If you missed that conversation or you came in late, we'll have the entire thing up for you wherever you get your podcast. You can search out the Sports Bar. And remember, we sound our best in the free-to-download Odyssey app, where with Rewind, you can go back and listen to any part of the show that you may have missed for the next 72 hours. Happy hour next in the Sports Bar, Gino.
Yeah, as we have time for your calls and happy hour as well. Our phone number, 866-4FAN. That's 866-4326.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with Danger. WBBF Rochester, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester. An Odyssey sports station.
The Fan, Rochester. Sports update.
We got a date and opponent for the Rochester Americans home opener. It'll be Belleville coming in on Friday, October the 11th. The full schedule for the Amherst in the American Hockey League coming out tomorrow. Rochester Red Wings had their 6-game winning streak snapped today. Worcester winning 7-6. Same two teams in Central Mass tomorrow. On the Major League scoreboard, a couple of game ones in doubleheaders that have gone final. Royals over the Cardinals 6-4. White Sox over the Twins 3-1. Yankees have won only one game in the month of July. Tonight, continuing their series down in Tampa. Philadelphia hosting the Dodgers. The Red Sox continue their series in Fenway against the A's. The Mets are home against Washington. Sports is brought to you by GetMyPerks.com today. Get a $50 certificate for only $25 to Max Pizzeria and Catering on Lyle Avenue. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader. The Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
This is a team that has seemingly, for the entirety of the Josh Allen era, has been on the cusp of the Super Bowl.
The Bills, in the beginning of the season, looked like the normal Bills. Then they hit kind of an offensive rut.
Mike Danger.
Are they contenders or are they pretenders?
Gene Battaglia.
Who's the MVP of the league right now?
Gundy's something, man. I like him. But man, my man was making some pretty ridiculous statements. No way. Quit. Not available?
I mean, I feel bad for the guy. He doesn't get to represent his country. It's such a bummer.
95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Happy hour in the sports bar, Gino, and I couldn't help but notice you omitted the final score from the Euros. I appreciate
you told
that.
me to do that.
I appreciate that.
At the top of the show today, and I had to say at like 3 o'clock, we don't quite often get live sports that matter on a weekday afternoon. And here we had two things going on. We have this semifinal in the European soccer tournament that I'm aware of. I'm aware of because, well, Spain, and I say your because you have family over in Spain. They win yesterday over France.
I was distracted yesterday. It's kind of a mess watching that game.
Yeah, and it all worked out.
Went back and watched it last night. Had to.
Yeah.
Full attention. I'm like, wow, they look good.
And so today being the other semifinal, and you had the Netherlands going against England, and I come into the studio, I'm like, wait a second. Like some soccer fan you are, like you have Wimbledon on. What do you do? And then, oh, no.
Game plan.
I'm taping it. Do not tell me. Like, wait a second. You're that guy? You're that guy. Don't tell me the outcome. I'm taping it. Dude, it's 2024. What are you doing?
Don't tell my daughter. Don't just keep it quiet. I know what happened.
You know what happened.
We're in here. We've got ESPN on the big screen. I've got my feed going. I got people texting me.
So why did you deprive that? Like it was an exciting ending for England. I couldn't even watch it because being your friend.
Now you're mad at me.
I'm mad at you.
You're not a soccer fan.
I'm not a soccer fan.
Why
do you
care?
Ending.
Why do you care? Wouldn't you rather watch Ramona Shelburne on ESPN than watch the Euros, Gino? Don't lie. No. How dare you? Well, I appreciate you keeping it a secret. I know the outcome. Don't tell my daughter. I know the outcome. I just want to watch it with her with fresh eyes. I want her and I to experience the match together. And this sets up, man. Sunday is going to be war in my house because she likes England. England's her squad.
So what time is that? Middle of the day?
Yeah, 3 o'clock on Sunday, and then I think Sunday night is the final of Copa America as well. Canada got bounced last night.
Who cares?
There's your soccer update from Mr. Soccer here, Mike Danger.
Oh, who cares?
Not really, but been following along and paying attention. It's fun. You mentioned it. It's a live event that matters in the middle of the day in the summertime. There were some WNBA games today.
Why?
In the middle of the day. That's what I'm trying to figure out. I'm like, why exactly?
Why? So what was a camp day across the WNBA? Angel Reese, her 14th consecutive double-double. Okay,
right.
Great. Like,
again, I'm too far on the outside of that to understand why they scheduled games in the middle of the day. I get why they did it in Europe. They're ahead of us, and we get to see it in the middle of the day.
Right, and they do this in baseball because you play every day, and you got to get to the next city. So that's why Wednesday, quite often, they call it getaway day.
Mm-hmm. Not too often that we get to do a show under a tornado warning, but that's what we were dealing with earlier today. Hopefully everybody's okay.
It's still a watch until 9 o'clock, as I understand it. And to give you an idea, it's one of those days where, like, the sun was out for 15 minutes last hour, and now it's not out. So with just a lot of rain here in downtown Rochester today. So we can't – we didn't observe anything.
I mean,
downtown.
even as soon as early this morning, as I was driving away, you could kind of see the wall of clouds setting up and moving towards us from the west. I'm like, ooh, yeah, it's going to be everything that they said and more. And so hopefully you and yours are safe. We know that there may still be some power outages, I believe. Everybody's concerned about flash flooding. Regardless, we appreciate you checking us out. Hope that that the storm left you unscathed. Thanks for listening at 95.7 FM, AM 950. Hey, we're not immune. We were off the air on 950 for a little bit this afternoon, too. Derek the Pizza Dude going above and beyond, as always, getting us back on the air. No shortage of ways to enjoy the sports bar. If you're listening in the free-to-download Odyssey app, that's where we sound our best, also on your smart device. When you ask it to play, 95.7 The Fan.
Yeah, good times here in the sports bar. We got time for your calls, 866-4326-8664-FAN. As, well, 2 weeks from today, we get the Bills at camp here. And so far, everything's going all right for the Buffalo Bills, meaning you don't want them in the news. You want this to be a quiet time.
Yeah, and kudos to the guys at One Bills Live for finding ways and different ways to chop up a dull offseason, getting us excited and talking about what's coming up with training camp here in 2 weeks from St. John Fisher University. Camp battles that you might be interested in checking. I think everybody's going to be paying attention to wide receiver. I'm curious about what safety looks like.
Can there be another pass rusher that you could actually add to the mix? Can one of these guys, who's going to be that camp darling we're all going to latch onto? These are all evergreen topics, by the way, meaning like we're always going to gravitate
every year.
Maybe not the safeties. Like that's the one thing that, okay, Poyer ain't here anymore.
Yeah. No, safety's interesting to me. I really am curious to see if Taylor Rapp has another gear, if Mike Edwards can stay healthy through training camp and get on the field. Because Cole Bishop, guy you invested a second-round draft pick in, sure seems like they're high on that player.
Yeah, you would hope that Cole Bishop, like as far as upside at the safety position, I don't think you could say it's DeMar Hamlin. I don't think you could say it's Mike Edwards. You're hoping that Taylor Rapp, too, and you and I differ on Taylor Rapp. I think Rapp makes the roster, but you want Bishop to be there, and maybe he starts week one, but the Bills do a great job of kind of running a little misdirection, meaning we didn't know all along it was going to be Terrell Bernard. They sure as heck knew that, a middle linebacker last year. We didn't know that Osiris Torrance was going to be starting all 17 regular season games for the Buffalo Bills at right guard. We thought this time last year it was actually going to be Ryan Bates. So who might be that, hey, the Bills are keeping this player under wraps, and maybe it ends up being Cole Bishop that, hey, the second-round pick, he's going to be one of our safeties.
When you look at the wide receivers, which I think will get a lot of attention in a couple of weeks at St. John Fisher, are you buying what is being sold? I'm hearing a little rumbling and undercurrent of hype around Curtis Samuel. Can Curtis Samuel be a 100 reception receiver for the Buffalo Bills? Do you see something like that happening, given his familiarity with the Brady offense?
No. Here's the only way I could see it happening. Maybe we learned this early on. Where are they lining him up? You know how I love trivia. I read this, and forgive me, because if you came up with this stat, I should give you credit on it. But in the Josh Allen era, like the percentage of targets danger, well, it was Stephon Diggs, number one on the list, 21%. Who's number two on the list? Percentage of targets in the Josh Allen era.
I'm going to guess Cole Beasley.
Correct, 10%. Mm-hmm. It's not Gabe Davis. It's not anybody else. It's because Cole Beasley. And I take that a step further, that Beasley brought something to this offense that they really haven't had, right? Like, once in a while they would put Diggs in the slot, but Beasley being the slot receiver, Beasley gobbling up those short targets, it never happened with Isaiah McKenzie. Nobody really stepped up into that role once Beasley left. Could that actually be Sam? Is that how he could be a part of this offense?
I think what Beasley did, better than anybody we've seen since is just his ability to separate. He was just a good separator, good route runner, and a good mover of the chains. I think Samuel can be that separator. There's still some speed there. Samuel's a fast guy.
But I never viewed him as being the slot guy. I view him as
the outside guy.
The outside guy. So the outside guy leading the team something's wrong if Curtis Samuel was the leading receiver amongst the wide receivers on this team. You could sell me the fact that, all right, your leading receiver in terms of receptions is going to be Dalton Kincaid.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it's going to be Khalil Shakir. But Kincaid, that would be a good thing. Yeah, this groundswell of, hey, Samuel might be the guy. I think we've kind of reached the end point here of possibilities if we're talking about that. At least we're not talking about, hey, you know what? Chase Claypool could make the team here.
Oh, that'll be a conversation. I'm sure that'll be a conversation. I mean, just hearing how much people were falling over themselves during OTAs about Chase Claypool, I'm sure he has a musk that everybody will be like, whoa, did you see him make that catch? Whoa, do you see his size? Hey, he's Mapletron. He's back. I need to
We'll have some reporter from Toronto coming down and they're like, yeah, what does it mean to you?
I need to see it. I need to see it, and I'm not gonna go there just yet as to whether or not Chase Claypool actually makes the final 53. MVS, I think, makes it. You got the invite to Josh Allen's house. You get a little dinner with Josh Allen. I think he's in. He's in the clique. I don't know about Claypool yet. And the other name that we've heard a lot about this offseason is Mac Hollins. Again, when you're looking at Justin Shorter, KJ Hamler, Andy Isabella, Mac Hollins, Mac Hollins might be a special teams guy. We hear that he's very vocal, that he might be the guy that's bringing the quote-unquote juice that Diggs used to bring to practice, the intensity.
I think he makes the team actually because of special teams, too. That's really, if you're going to go 5 deep, because MVS you're going to pencil in, Hollins. So we're going to be laser focused on the 6 wide receiver? Is that what we're talking about?
I think so.
Yeah.
Defensively, look, I think we all have questions about what this pass rush looks like on the edge, especially. Von Miller isn't Von Miller anymore, or at least he hasn't been. You bring back Epineza. Rousseau continues to develop. They bring in Dwayne Smoot, free agent. Maybe he's this year's Leonard Floyd, a pleasant surprise in the free agent market. And I also can't wait to see Matt Milano. I can't wait to see what he looks like coming off that injury, that season-ending injury.
Right, because we've seen this the last 2 years where, hey, Tre'Davious White coming off, he looked great on the sideline, but they didn't, actually unleash him until November. Same thing with Von Miller. By the way, Von Miller. We didn't really talk about that. That was one of his comments where we took our little 4th of July break.
Yeah.
Like, well, I shouldn't have been playing all along. Dude.
Just shut up.
Roll back the tape. You were the one saying that's you.
Just shut up.
Yeah.
Just shut up.
Stop.
Nobody wants to hear it.
Stop.
More action, less talk. Don't predict anything. Your predictions have never come true. Don't say anything.
No. But back to your point about Milano, how do they play this? Because if I'm guessing they're going to slow play it, which I'm fine with, actually. Matt Milano doesn't need, learn the defense or anything like that.
Right. Well, we can't wait. Training camp at St. John Fisher University, and as has become custom, the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia, we will be there live every day that the Bills are practicing. We'll be talking to players. We'll be talking to Brandon Beane, hopefully, sharing the latest news every day from Fisher for those of you who can't make it out to camp.
Yeah, and this year's going to be a little different because 2 years ago, preseason favorite. Last year, hey, still a lot. I think the Bills fan base will still be excited, but there's real questions now that the Buffalo Bills, can they even win the division?
I think the fan base isn't delusional. I think that everybody that follows this team closely, I think, has a very realistic expectation of what this team can be. More so now than we did even, 3 years ago. This isn't a Super Bowl roster. I mean, if they make it to the postseason, that's fantastic.
You make it to the postseason and you're in, and maybe you get a little luck. I think that's the best case scenario.
Right. I mean, when you want to talk about luck, I think last season the missed opportunities in terms of luck is your entire offensive line was healthy all season. Can you replicate that? I mean, I think the odds of that happening are slim. But if you can replicate that, and Josh Allen's able to get the time he needs, maybe. You certainly feel like you have enough to win the division when you look around the rest of the AFC East. But I think everybody's realistic, and I think the expectation for as high as it was, and we remember just how much enthusiasm the fan base. Do you remember? I mean, like the wait to get tickets for training camp. It was like next to impossible a couple of seasons ago.
Yeah, and I would guess it's going to be similar this year. Like, it's become kind of a thing.
It is, but I think also just a more, maybe like a muted tone. Like, we kind of know where we are. And I don't want to say we feel defeated, but we all know what needs to happen in order for this team to get to where we want them to go. They got to beat Kansas City in the postseason. They got to beat Kansas City when it matters.
Yeah, it's going to be such a long ride. We're going to be all excited, and we're going to get to camp and everything, and then you realize, wow, this is only beginning with Arizona and Miami.
Yeah. Not a ton happening around the NFL, to be honest. I mean, it's a downtime, and as you mentioned, Gino, probably a good thing that that we're not hearing any names in the news. That's the thing you don't want to hear if you're a fan of a team. You don't want to hear any of your players making headlines today. I keep seeing little clips from Hard Knocks, and I don't know if they're sharing these clips because they want more people to actually watch the whole show. I'm fine with just watching the clips, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm really kind of like souring on. I know that the access is why you watch the show, but the access doesn't do the team that they're covering any favors. I feel as if it makes the teams look a little bit foolish.
Now, in fairness to the Giants, I haven't watched this, but all you have to do is like go on a social media feed, and they're going to give you the highlights and the stuff that's like, I don't know if I want my GM showing how to be coached up, how to answer questions, and then how to basically lie or bend the truth. And that's kind of what you do at the NFL Combine. I don't think I wasn't even aware of this until our guest Thor Nystrom talking about McCord, the Syracuse quarterback, when they're kind of going over a scouting report about Marvin Harrison Jr., they're kind of trashing him. I'm like, I don't think you want anything like that.
Right.
I don't think you want the conversation between Dable and Neighbors.
It shouldn't be embarrassing for a coach. It shouldn't be embarrassing for a player. Yeah, you appreciate the authenticity. You appreciate the all-access nature of it. But, I mean, you're going to put a lot of stuff on the cutting room floor. I mean, I guess if you're learning anything, it's nothing that new that we haven't learned. It's just the NFL wants to control its messaging and will control its messaging, even if it does bend the truth. And if you see that behind-the-scenes look of Joe Shane prepping for a press conference, it's like the truth is secondary to what the message is that we want to put out to the public. And I didn't like the clip with Dayball and Neighbors. I just think, you know what? It doesn't really help the player. It doesn't make the player look good. It doesn't really make the coach look all that sharp. I don't know. It doesn't sit well with me. I know that it's out there. I know that it still exists, and I guess I'll be fine with just watching the clips. But every time I see the clip, I'm like, oh, I don't know, man. Hard Knocks. You know what it is? It's weird because the thing that we loved about it is now the thing that I'm actually turned off by.
Yeah, and whether you were really behind him or not, you have to project you're behind your quarterback, right? What this show has kind of shown is like Shane was trying to move up in the draft. Really, was it really going to be for Marvin Harrison Jr., or were you really thinking Drake May to jump the Patriots?
Right.
Like that to me, all right. To me, it seems like, and it's all fine because I had a friend call me and say, hey, it's going to lead to change. I'm like, yeah, it's going to lead to Bill Belichick coming in.
Yeah, right.
Like every Giant fan, you want to talk about a fan base that loves the past, talk about being a Bill Parcells. Belichick would be the same way. But the Giant fan base would love Bill Belichick coming in.
I think he's done, man. I don't think he's coming back. Gino, you're going to have to come to the realization he's done. He's dating a 24-year-old. He's going to be a media superstar.
Where is this going? Like, when it becomes fall, is she really going to be hanging out?
For sure. Yeah. She's not
This is really about love.
She's not letting go of that gravy train. No way. No way.
Isn't he going to get bored at some point?
I don't think he's going to get bored. No, I don't think so. Jim Riley was great. Barreled Up. Joined us last hour. You mentioned in your sports update, and I'm not laughing at the Yankees, but, man, you've won one game in the month of July.
Yeah, that was the Ben Rice 3-homer game. I think they scored 17 against the Red Sox.
Now, bright side, if you're going to have this kind of swoon, it's it's now. That's when you want to have it. You don't want to have this later in the season. You don't want to be playing your worst baseball, which they're doing right now, later. But yeah, you wonder what this team looks like here down the stretch.
It's an interesting weekend, is it not? When the Yankees are in Baltimore right now, standings. Baltimore's up by 3 games. What is that fan base? What's Camden Yards going to be like? It's going to be rocking. It's going to feel not like mid-July baseball. It's going to feel like this is our opportunity to actually take the division. And if you can go up by 5-6 games on the Yankees heading into the break.
Oh, you know who's excited about all of this is Boston. I mean, Boston very quietly is a really good baseball team that are only 3.5 back of the Yankees. I mean, they're a playoff team.
Bello had 11 Ks last night. Yeah.
They're a playoff team. So, yeah, the Yankees collapse coinciding with the Red Sox resurgence. The Orioles just kind of steady and consistent, even though they might lose a series here or there. They don't dwell. They kind of pick themselves up and get after it again. Yeah, the AL East is interesting, but the Yankees' struggles continue. And if you missed our conversation with Jim Riley, Ballcap Sports on YouTube, the Barreled Up podcast, and the free-to-download Odyssey app, you can get that wherever you get your shows. Search out the Sports Bar, and you'll get that conversation there.
We're talking baseball in part because the monitor turned off today. A backup, Ollie Watkins, 91st minute, England. 91st minute danger, and we couldn't watch that because, I'm taping it. I didn't know you were I'm taping it guy.
I'm not taping it. My daughter is taping it.
Okay, semantics.
No, I would not tape it.
It's not on because you were going to watch it later. Like, who does that?
The guy that has to sit in the studio with you for 3 hours, pal. That's the guy who does that. The head van washer at the Fan Rochester. That's who does that. I have to watch it tape delay with my daughter. She wants to watch it together. I'm in. Of course I want to watch it with my daughter. So we're going to watch it when I get home.
But are you going to lie to your daughter and say,
I'm going to tell her, look, I can't help it. I'm sorry. I've got the monitor on. I saw the score. I don't know. I didn't watch the game, so we can watch it together. But, yeah, I know the score. And look at this. Polster Peter.
On cue.
One of our regulars on X at the Fan Rochester. What type of fan are you when it comes to watching a recorded game later? Are you the fan that A, needs to see the score before, or B, doesn't see the score? I don't want to see anything. It's hard. Sabre season is hard because I will record Sabres games. Sometimes it just doesn't work out, or I start late or whatever. And it's almost impossible. Like, if you're looking at your phone, I'm going to get an alert. I'm going to get something that tells me, after one period, the Sabres,
right.
Damn it. I didn't want to see the score. So I'm team don't see the score. So I'm a little disappointed today, but I'm going to watch the game and enjoy the game knowing what the outcome is.
I think in terms of the NFL, because if you like the NFL, chances are you like fantasy, or maybe you're using your FanDuel. It's it's next to near impossible, right? You want to know instantly, what about my team? So I don't know. Do people still exist that tape the Buffalo Bills game, for instance, and want to watch it later at night? I might not watch the whole game, but I might get a late start. Like, I might record it and then catch up. Like, by the time halftime gets. See, that would be a life hack if we were that disciplined. Like, okay, here's 1 hour.
Yeah,
right through it.
That's kind of what I do. I might get a later start than most. Like, if kickoff is at 1, I might get a 1:30, 1:45 start, and then power through the commercials. Fast forward through the commercials, get to halftime, fast forward through halftime, and try to catch up to the live feed by the time you get to the third quarter. I've done that move plenty of times, but I don't want to see the score. I don't want to know. I am definitely not see the score, so I'm a little disappointed in myself. It's okay. It's all right. We will, we'll have that final. This is going to divide my house, man. I'm telling you. Spain versus England on Sunday for the Euros final.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see how loyal my daughter actually is to
she's got
my
Spanish
motherland.
Blood. Yeah, no. Look, you should be for Spain if you have family over there. It's not. There's no question. Ask her if she wants to, stay somewhere else on Sunday if that's the case.
She's going to England in September. You know what? Stay there. If you're not going to root for Spain. The tornado watch that was out there has been canceled for everybody except for Yates County. There's a little bit of good news for you.
Okay.
Weather improving in our area is a lot of us dealing with high winds, tornado warnings, tornado watches, heavy rains, the remnants of a hurricane coming through the area today.
On a much lighter note, Danger, thank you for the guidance last night, because not only was trim mow, it was the triple trim mow. Get the
Weed and feed, baby.
Get the green.
Get the fertilizer
get
on
it
there.
down.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my neighbors think I'm crazy. I'm out there. I'm sweating bullets, man. I mean, I'm hustling to get that fertilizer down last night. It was still muggy last night. It was hot.
Oh, yeah. Muggy and buggy. Yep.
Like, I'm in. Everybody's looking at me like, what happened to you? Did you just go for a run? I'm like, no, I want you guys to appreciate. This is the work, the blood, the sweat, and the tears that goes into making sure your lawn is maintained through the course of the, and right now, it's embarrassing. Next to my neighbor with the irrigation system, it's embarrassing. Got to use Mother Nature's sprinkler, knowing it's going to rain heavy today. Fertilizer down last night, boys. I got a little bit left over. Maybe in a couple weeks I'll do another application. We'll see.
Maybe we can get you an irrigation system, right? Hi, I'm Mike Danger for the
You want-
XXX irrigation.
You want me to talk? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll hawk any product you throw my way. I'm a whore. What are you talking about? Yes, let's go. We'll absolutely talk about an irrigation system. Who's got one for me?
Yeah.
Let's talk. Gene Battaglia. That's Gene with a G. Look him up. Gene.battaglia@odyssey.com. All right. Let's take a break and come back with a round of shots next.
Yeah, stories in the sport. Hey, we haven't heard from Rory McIlroy until today.
Oh, this guy.
Yeah.
Oh,
that
who
guy.
cares?
Yeah, that guy. Oh, and we haven't gotten into the Mike Gundy comment, the Oklahoma State head coach.
Oh, did he? I think I saw what he kind of insinuated, and I'm wondering. It's like the George thing, right? Like, oh, is that wrong? Is that
Was that wrong?
Yeah, one of those situations. Should I not drink and drive?
If I hadn't.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, this is 1950. Who knew?
Oh, hey, look at this. Another soccer note just crossing the feed. U.S. men's national team, Greg Berhalter will not be their coach moving forward. Okay, there you go. They can't get it right, man. It's a mess. It's a mess. This is why partially why I enjoy watching the Euros and Copa. It's like, oh, this is what it's supposed to look like. Nice. Round of shots next. Last call on the way. You can pull up a stool and have the final word in the sports bar at 866-4326.
We have an opponent for the Rochester Americans for their home opener on October the 11th. It's going to be Belleville. Full Amerks schedule will be released tomorrow. The Rochester Red Wings, their 6-game winning streak came to an end today. Worcester winning 7-6. Same two teams tomorrow in central Massachusetts. On the Major League scoreboard, a couple finals in Game 1s. The Royals defeating the Cardinals 6-4. It was the White Sox in Game 1 over the Twins 3-1. Game 2, the Sox are up on the Twins 1-0. They're in the second. Yankees continuing their series tonight down in Tampa Bay. The Dodgers are in Philadelphia. Red Sox taking on Oakland. The Mets are home against Washington. Sports is brought to you by GetMyPerks.com. They get a $50 certificate for only $25 to Max Pizzeria and Catering, Lyle Avenue in Gates. Gene Mataglin, the sports leader. The Fan, Rochester.
Bills, Sabres, Amerks. Your home for live sports is 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Happy Hour continues on The Fan here in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. Thanks for listening along at 95.7 FM, AM 950, and watching the YouTube feed. Our channel on YouTube, The Fan Rochester, also on Twitch.
Yeah, Kawhi Leonard will not be playing in the upcoming Paris Olympics for Team USA. Derek White of the Celtics taking the spot. Part of the statement from Team USA, quote, the Clippers determine it's in his best interest to spend the remainder of the summer preparing for the upcoming season rather than participating in the Olympic Games in Paris. The opening ceremonies in Paris, that's coming up July 26th.
So the NBA's all-injured all-star team, you got to put Kawhi as a starter, right? I mean, like, even though he's not going to play in Paris, the Clippers saying this is fraudulent. Like, he's still going to miss a ton of time this upcoming season. He always misses time.
Right, so this is the Clippers looking out for their interest.
Right, but it's not going to matter.
Or is it Kawhi just kind of hiding behind the team here? Because I always thought the players dictated, their availability, whether it was I need a day off or, hey, I want to play in the Olympics. I thought it's kind of interesting that a team actually kind of stepped in here. And if that's the Clippers saying, hey, no, I think that's actually good for the Clippers, and it shouldn't matter. Honestly, it shouldn't matter for Team USA.
No, it shouldn't. But go ahead and put Ben Simmons on that roster as well as a starter next to Kawhi. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Just soft.
Yeah. Oklahoma State head coach Mike Gundy, speaking at Big 12 Media Day, offering up a defense for his star running back, Ollie Gordon II, who was arrested on June 30th for suspicion of DUI.
Okay. Here it is.
What would be the legal limit? Like in Oklahoma is .08, and Ollie was .1. So I looked it up, and it was based on body weight. Not to get into the legal side of it, but I thought really 2 or 3 beers or 4. I'm not justifying what Ollie did. I'm telling you what decision I made. Well, I thought I've probably done that 1,000 times in my life.
Oh, boy.
And it's just fine. So I got lucky. People get lucky. Ollie made a decision that he wished he could have done better. But when I talked to Ollie, I told him, I said, you're lucky you got out light.
Oh, man.
Oh, my gosh.
Mike Gundy.
So
normalizing driving drunk.
He's only guilty because he got caught. Is that the takeaway?
He's done it thousands of times. You heard him say it.
Well, somebody got to Mike Gundy because he walked that back real quick.
Yeah, I bet.
My intended point today at Big 12 Media Days was that we're all guilty of making bad decisions. It was not a reference to something specific.
Thousands of times.
Yeah,
apparently.
and you're talking about 2 or 4 and doing the blood alcohol.
Yeah, sometimes less is more. You could just say, yeah, he's lucky that he was in this bad position and nobody got hurt. We're going to learn from this and move on.
Well, or as Maggie Gray has kind of pointed out, like, there's got to be a reason Mike Gundy hasn't come up for a bigger job at some point, right? He's been at Oklahoma State forever.
He has.
Since he was 40.
Yeah.
He's a man.
That's that guy. I'm a man. I'm 40.
I'm 40. His hair hasn't changed, by the way.
Still got the mullet.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Arkansas waterfall, I call that one. That's what he's rocking.
It was 1 year ago today that the investigation into Wander Franco allegedly having sexual relations with a 14-year-old in the Dominican Republic began today. Prosecutors filed charges of sexual abuse and sexual exploitation against a minor.
Mike Gundy's wondering, what's the big deal? I mean, 14, 16, 18. I mean, thousands of times. What's the problem? I mean, he just got caught. It's terrible.
The Rays did something they never did up until that point. That was actually spend money. Just 70 games into the career of Wander Franco, they handed him an 11-year, $182 million contract. So to answer your question, does he still get paid? Well, up until today, the answer was yes, because he was on administrative leave. But at 5 o'clock today, he was put on the restricted list because he couldn't report, and now he's been charged. So the Rays at least can stop writing the check.
Okay, so like the restricted list is like commissioners exempt, or no, restricted list is you're done. You don't get paid.
Done.
Yeah,
you're done.
But when you're on the administrative leave, you're still getting paid.
Right. Well, he's on the restricted list because he
got charged.
He got charged. You in his administrative leave. Look, we don't want you here. We're gonna pay you. This is part of the CBA. Okay, you're getting paid. Oh, you've been charged now, and okay, well then we're gonna take that right back, and you can't report. So
yeah, Mike Gundy with some Benny Mardones playing in the background wants to know what the big deal is. I mean, yeah, this is unfortunate, and Wander Franco, but I mean, really, Mike, who amongst us hasn't? I mean, come on, what are we talking about here, guys?
I would like to know, like maybe again, this is a different country, but it took a year. Like, you have this other story that kind of broke during the today. Jonte Porter, he pled guilty. He's going to cut some sort of deal. He was the player in the WNBA that, in the NBA. They get WNBA on the mind because we got finals today. That basically threw his own stats just to benefit himself.
Yeah. He pled guilty.
Yeah.
Best course of action, I suppose.
Yeah.
Huh.
We'll see if it goes any deeper than that, see if he cuts some sort of deal. When we last saw Rory McIlroy, remember this? He was speeding away after his collapse at the U.S. Open at Pinehurst, not sticking around to talk to reporters, not sticking around to congratulate and actually shake the hand of the winner, Bryson DeChambeau.
Soft.
McIlroy is playing for the first time since the debacle this week. He entered the Scottish Open, and today he spoke publicly for the first time since Pinehurst, and kind of made no big deal of it. Says he has no regrets about not speaking to reporters after.
Yeah, but your true character comes out. We get who you are now. We understand who you are. And I don't think Rory McIlroy is who we all thought he was the entire time we were all kind of enamored with him for marrying a girl from Rochester. I'm not rooting for this guy.
That's our blind spot. Like if you say, hey, we love you, Rochester, or hey, he's one.
No.
Well,
not rooting for this guy. Soft. Hated how he dealt with that. Don't like the stories that came out around his marriage and the divorce and then the not divorce and everything that's going on. Yeah, he's talking to the media now. He's home. He's Scottish Open. He's fine talking to the Euro press. They're digging into him as well. Like, what's going on with you, man?
Yeah.
Get together.
Well, before getting over to Scotland, McIlroy was over in London on Monday night having dinner with his Ryder Cup teammates.
Where do you think they went? Buffalo Wild Wings?
It looks somewhere very British.
Bill Gray's? They go to Bill Gray's? What do you think they had their Ryder Cup dinner?
I do know one restaurant that Rory went to. It was on Park Ave, but since they don't advertise on the show,
you're not going to give him a free plug.
No, I will not.
Okay.
So, I'm sure McIlroy loves some Bill Gray's, though. Who doesn't? McIlroy in London, as we mentioned, all the teammates brought their wives. And yes, Rory brought his wife too, Irondequoit royalty, Erica Stoll.
That's right.
Rory, doing the eyes on you thing, buddy. We still haven't forgotten.
No, the true character has come out, and you might think that forgive and forget, give everybody some. No, I think this guy's a fraud. I think he's a fraud, and he can't get out of his own way, can't get out of his own head, and he's going to run and hide when things get too tough. He's going to run and hide. He's not going to face up or live up to his mistakes or his shortcomings. The one bright spot, at least I want to believe it's a bright spot, is they are back together. That's good. That's good for their kid, and hopefully good for their relationship. But no, not forgiving, not rooting for him.
Yeah, and as far as Amanda, the homewrecker, Amanda Balionis,
right.
this past weekend, 4th of July weekend, look, she took a little time off, a little girl's trip to Las Vegas.
Oh, she didn't. She hasn't patched it up with her husband. Who's the former quarterback?
Florida.
Right?
Yeah, I can't remember the
Forget
guy's
his name.
Yeah, or her married name, which she doesn't go by anymore.
Okay.
So
all right, good. We're all caught up on that. That's good to know. And Jeff Gundy doesn't know what the big deal is about any of it. Or I'm sorry, Mike Gundy doesn't know what the big deal is. Sorry. Yeah. Mike Gundy, like, oh, what? You slept with a reporter allegedly? I mean, I've probably done that a couple hundred times. Is that a problem?
Bryn Renner was the husband.
Bryn Renner.
Or is the husband.
Yeah.
Amanda Renner. Yeah.
No justice for Bryn Renner. Poor guy. Just left in the dust. Can't compete with Rory.
Couldn't stick in the NFL.
Nope, not a big enough name. Last call is next. You can join us at 866-4326. Oh, tomorrow looks like one of those shows where we're going to be welcoming plenty of your phone calls.
That's right.
Yeah. Pete the Pollster, if you want to call up and talk about the Jets in 2024, we'll listen to that.
Hey, coming up next, it's John from Rochester.
John from Rochester dropping his most controversial, optimistic takes. Yeah, that could be our show tomorrow. But we'll set you up, and we'll let you know where you can go back and listen to today's show as well. That's all on the way next. 866-4FAN for Last Call on the Fan.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with FAN. 866-432-6. The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Fun afternoon in the Sports Bar, dodging tornado warnings. Hopefully everybody is safe, secure. Valuables are in your possession. Power is back on, hopefully. No flooding. We're thinking about you if you're going through it. If you missed any of today's show, inside the free-to-download Odyssey app, you can go back and listen with Odyssey Rewind. For the next 72 hours, any part of the show that you may have missed. If you're more of a podcast person, we've got that for you as well. Our conversations with Thor Nystrom of Fantasy Life and Jim Riley, the host of the Barreled Up podcast. Just search out the Sports Bar wherever you pod, and you'll get those conversations. You listen at your leisure. It's almost like he's Beetlejuice. You mention his name, and he calls into the Sports Bar. It's John from Rochester checking in for last call. Buddy, how you been?
I've been good. In fact, I was at the Travelers a couple weeks ago, and my brother and I, we hear some guy goes, "Nice hats." We had our Bills hats on.
Yeah.
Turned around, it's Chris Berman. And I go to Chris. I go, "Chris, where would you rather be than right here, right now?"
No one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills.
And that's what he said. He says, "No one circles the wagons like."
The
and
Buffalo
we answered
Bills.
it.
Yeah, you know what
I
think. You know what I think about Berman. I have a feeling that if you ran into Berman and tried to have a conversation, that all he would do is just throw his catchphrases at you. That you wouldn't really be able to have a conversation with him. He's just going to give you his catchphrases because that's all he's known for.
It was great though. But you know, you were talking about Bill Belichick, and I got to tell you, one thing I was surprised you didn't mention about why he is why this girl's attracted to him. He's well endowed.
I mean, you went right there, John. I get it. We kind of said that there's another skill that he may possess.
Yeah, I did.
All right,
I did
just making sure you're keeping up with our theory here as to why we think this is happening and why we think this is. I mean, look, it's easy to say. Thank you, John. It's easy to say.
It's Barnyard Radio.
It's easy to say. He's got money. It's easy to say he's established. You know, you could raise an eyebrow at like, oh, the age gap. Well, that's kind of bizarre. It's like, no, it's not really bizarre if you consider that he might be really, really good at that. If he's really, really good at that, let's just say if he knows his way around Nantucket, then it becomes a little bit more clear. Now you understand. Okay, it makes sense.
Nantucket is an exclusive place. It's not easy to get around.
Hard to find. You might need a map.
Yeah,
somebody might need to point you in the right direction.
You need experience if you're on Nantucket.
You need experience and perhaps a forked tongue. But all of that said, I don't know that the doctor that we were talking about earlier that's right, that it's about daddy issues. I don't know that it's necessarily. I mean, maybe sure some daddy issues, but it might be more simple than that. It might just be that he is a guy, a man, a man of exquisite passion who knows his way around Nantucket, if you follow. All right, tomorrow on more
the
of
show.
John from Rochester.
Yeah, if you want to be on the show, reach out to me after hours, as that'll be my evening.
All of our guests took off the week after we took off. Yeah, everybody's like, we'd love to have you on, but love to be on. But I reached out to Sigmund Bloom from Football Guys. We had Bob Harris on with us yesterday. It was great. And Sig's like, I'm on vacation. Check in with me after the 21st. I'm like, you lucky bastard. Good for you. Yeah, the 21st. What does the world look like July 21st? We're already thinking about training camp. We're 2 weeks away. Yeah. We're already there. So, yeah, we'll figure it out for tomorrow. We'll I mean, I can tell you this. We'll have a show. We'll be here, 3 o'clock. I don't know if that's a real compelling tease.
All right, tomorrow, I know we'll have one thing we can talk about. We'll have an Amerks schedule.
Oh.
So that'll drop tomorrow.
What was the team that you dropped in their timeline?
Oh, the Baltimore Skipjacks. That's probably before your time. So, real quick, because I know we're up against it. The Amerks put out today, hey, 2 free tickets to anybody who would be the first one to correctly guess who our home opener opponent will be. And they're going to announce that today. People guessing. Utica, Syracuse, Belleville was the correct answer. Somebody writes in Binghamton. And the Amerks kind of, they have some fun with it. They're like the Binghamton Whalers, the Binghamton Rangers, the Binghamton Devils, the Broom Dusters. Like, what are we talking about? Yeah. And then don't I have to be kind of the dick that has to say, no, it's the Baltimore Skipjacks. Yeah. And our buddy Will Cleveland writing in the New Haven Nighthawks. Like all these defunct teams that are coming up. Yeah.
The Portland Pirates still a thing?
No.
Too bad. Well, yeah, that'll be exciting. And we're excited for. Look, this team, this organization, has taken a sharp. And by the way, there's some rumblings out there that the Sabres have interest in Trouba. You get Jacob Trouba, another guy that's going to come in and just lay the hammer down.
Stop.
It's out there.
Yeah.
So it's out there. We'll see. Now, maybe we'll have
lowering my expectations.
Maybe we'll have a bit of breaking news tomorrow. We'll find out. But at minimum, we know we'll have an Amherst schedule to discuss and dissect for Leo Shuffle's first season behind the bench. Again, if you missed the show, the Odyssey app, it's your resource. All things sports bar. You can go back and listen to any part you may have missed with Rewind and our conversations with Jim Riley, Thor Nystrom, and more. Available wherever you pod, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. Gino, have a great night.
Thanks, you too, Danger.
We'll have JR Sport Brief on the way for you next. Back again tomorrow starting at 3, the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Fan.